everyone, I had a crossbreeding video planned for today, but since the horse team sent us some news via a PM earlier than I expected, I wanted to talk about this PM instead since it's been causing a lot of confusion and a little bit of panic since we started testing this a few weeks ago. And I just wanted to clear some things up about this before it comes to the game. That way, then everybody can kind of think about it critically beforehand and just, come into this update with an open mind when we get this update. Now, for those of you who haven't seen yet, we got this PM from Howrse today. It says news for the Blup. Hello. As some of you may have heard through the grapevine, meaning the spoiler forum, we have a new change to how the Blup calculations arriving in game next Tuesday, the 7th of November. So that's when this update will take place. Asking yourself why. To correct a certain imbalance in the way Blup is calculated, as well as in how the genetic potential and skills are passed down to foals. We want to give value back to the efforts of determined breeders who make the effort to reach 100 Blup with their horses before breeding them, and thus assure a greater reward for breeding quality. Changes in the Blup calculation will help to distribute the three factors determining Blup calculation: win weighting, age weighting, and training better. There are also going to be changes for the genetic potential gain of foals, among other adjustments such as the Morpheus' Arms and Nix pack. Best wishes, the Howrse team. Now, I know right now this probably seems like, what the heck is this talking about? Well, this is just kind of like a PM, sort of a heads up sort of thing, but if you want further details, go to your server spoiler topic. This has been talked about on like all the servers that I'm on in the spoiler forum, but I also bumped up a screenshot that I took of the changelog from the test server. This is on the international forum, page 2155, should be towards the bottom of the international spoiler forum topic if you want to take a look at this, and I'll post a link to it in the description as well. So, like I said, this is a screenshot of the changelog from the test server. And just, forewarning on that, because this was from the test server, it's possible that they could have changed some things about this as we gave them feedback about it during testing. This might be different when it goes live. This is just the test server explanation about it, okay? So if it's a little bit different when this goes live, don't be alarmed. This is just something to think about, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read through the important parts, and as I read through each part, I'll break it down a little bit, so hopefully that will be a little bit easier to follow. This is just the Blup update. What is Blup? This just kind of explains Blup a little bit. If you've been on the game for a while, you know how to Blup, then I'm just going to skip over this. All right, here's the nitty-gritty good stuff. New Blup calculation. The game team, as well as quite a few players, have noticed that there has been a certain imbalance in the way Blup is calculated, as well as in how the genetic potential and skills are passed down to foals. I want to touch on this because a lot of people have asked, why do we need this change? Who asked for it? And to me, what this suggests is that a lot of the players have put in feedback about how either Blup is calculated just based in the point distribution of it, and also how it works with breeding. This to me suggests that the players had concerns about this in the past. It wasn't just the game team that decided to do this on their own. There were players as well that put in some feedback about this. So I just wanted to touch on that. All right. For example, training a horse and their three best skills counted more than age or wins when it came to calculating Blup. What this means is that right now under the current system, I'm going to say this a lot as I go through, under the current system, under the new system. So under the current system, you get 130 points for bowling your horse's top three skills. You get 40 points for reaching the age of 10, and you reach 30 points for winning 20 competitions. Under the current system, that's how the point distribution works. On the other hand, an average Blup that was lower than 100 will still give you a high enough genetic potential gain so that reaching 100 Blup lost its interest for some people. I think what this is referring to is that right now a lot of players will just to 70 Blup instead of going to 100 for getting GP gain. If you want that best possible inborn skills, you want to Blup to 100. But this is where it gets a little bit dicey, because there's some debate that 70 Blup gives you the same GP gain as 100, but if you want that inborn skill, the highest amount possible for that, then you want to get to 100. But they think that Blupping to 70 just gives you the same GP gain. Now, there is also the other side of the debate that says there is a difference in GP gain between breeding at 70 versus 100, but the difference in gain is just so small that a lot of players would rather just save their aging points to Blup to 70 as opposed to going to 100. And if you want to take a look at kind of that other side of the debate about the difference, that there is a difference, it's just really small. I also bumped up this post by Crimson Vex that explains the Blup formula, that kind of explains the difference a bit and all the tests that were done. This is quite interesting to read, so I, encourage you to read through this as well about the calculation of the Blup formula. Okay, so to move on, we wanted to give value back to the efforts of determined breeders who make the effort to get to 100 Blup with their horses. Okay, so that kind of reiterates what was in the PM. All right, Blup calculation. Better distribution of the 3 factors determining Blup calculation. Blup calculation is less weighted towards training so that wins and horse age count more. Win weighting. Each win gives you more Blup than the previous win. The 20th win is therefore the most significant. Age weighting. Each month gives you more Blup than the previous month, so you get to the maximum when the horse reaches age 10. To explain this, this kind of goes back to what I said about the current system regarding points. Under this new system, we won't necessarily be getting 130 points for bolting, 40 points for reaching age 10, and 30 points for reaching 20 competitions. We will actually be getting less points towards bolting, so bolting your horse's skills won't be worth as many points. Getting wins will be worth more points, and you'll actually get more points the more wins you get. So let's just say hypothetically that like your 10th win will earn you 10 points, but your 5th win will only earn you 5 points or something. Just hypothetical example for that. Age weighting, so it sounds like you will also get more points when your horse's age is worth more. So similar to that example previously, let's just say that once your horse reaches age 10, you'd get like 20 points for it or something, versus if your horse was only 8 years old, you'd only get like, I don't know, 15 or something. Again, just a really terrible hypothetical example. So that's what that means. The point distribution will not be the same. For a bit of a better example for this, because that was probably really confusing, right now under the current system, if you wanted to reach 70 Blup with your horse, all you would have to do is get to age 10, bowl the top 3 skills. You don't need any wins at all. Under the new system, as I tested this doesn't mean that this will be the same when it goes live. In order to reach 70 Blup, I actually needed to age the horse to 10 years old, bowl the top 3 skills, and get those 8 wins as well, because wins are worth more. Just doing what I did with this horse, aging to 10, bowling the top 3 skills under the new system, I only reached 60 Blup. So yeah, this current, what I do right now, just aging to 10, bowling top 3 skills, it won't reach 70 Blup under the new system. And that kind of falls into this tip right here, which says your horse's Blup updates after their first aging. So it might lower for some horses, but increase for others. And kind of, yeah, like I said, what that means is that because of what I've done with this horse right now, once this update comes into place, when I go to age this horse, his Blup will actually drop, because bolting is not worth as much as it was previously. Now, let's say he did have some wins on him, but less training done on him. His Blup might actually increase because he has those wins, and the wins are going to be worth more under the new system than what they are now. So don't be alarmed that once this update comes, after you age your horse, you might notice that the Blup will increase or decrease according to what's been done with the horse. Okay, so just don't be alarmed about that. Now, calculation of a foal's genetic potential. The formula for calculating a foal's genetic potential has been adjusted to change the Blup factor. If the parent's Blup is below 100, that should say GP gain, is weaker than before, whereas if the parent's Blup is 100, this says 100. If the parent's Blup is 100, nothing changes. And you can kind of take a look, this chart right here. I'm sorry, you'll have to scroll over a bit just because the image is kind of large to see what this means. But to break this down a little bit, you will get the same gain breeding at 100 Blup under the new system as you do now. So pretty much if you're breeding at 100 Blup already, you don't have to worry about gain changing or whatever. That won't change. What this is going to change is that if you breed at 70 Blup, you will definitely get less gain than you do now breeding at 70 Blup, because they're wanting to put a bigger kind of reward into breeding at 100. So you're definitely going to get, I don't want to say you're going to get more gain at breeding at 100 Blup. I mean, you will, but in doing that, what they're actually doing is making it so you get less gain by breeding anything below 100. So that's kind of what that means. So let's just say, I don't know, like right now, if I were to breed this horse at 70, of course, his GP is so low, he's going to get probably like an automatic 40 GP gain boost anyway. But let's just say if I were to breed him and another top level horse right now under this current system at 70 Blup, let's just say they get like 0.2 gain. Under the new system, they will get less than that. They won't get 0.2 anymore. They'll get less. I don't really exactly know how the new formula is going to work, but that's pretty much what that means. You won't get as much genetic potential gain as you do now. So they're just kind of putting a bigger reward back into that. So to move on, this was something else that the PM talked about that I think caused a little bit of confusion. Other adjustments, Morpheus's arms and Nix pack. You don't need to wait for a horse to be 3 years old now. You can give a full Morpheus's arms or even a Nix pack anytime after they're born. So you can now save on some aging points. What this means is that now you can just give the Morpheus's arms right away. You don't have to waste aging points getting your horse to 3 years old in order to put the Morpheus's arms on it. On the other hand, any horse over 30 years old now loses their Morpheus's arms. And then this tip right here just says how the Morpheus's arms works. So what this part means about any horse over 30 years old now loses the arms. Right now, under the current system, if your horse is immortal, meaning it has a Philosopher's Stone, it loses the Morpheus's arms when it reaches 30 years old. However, if your horse is mortal, meaning it does not have a Philosopher's Stone, it keeps the Morpheus's arms even after it reaches 30. But under the new system, what this is going to do, if they just keep it as it is, we did get a lot of feedback on this, so there's no guarantee that they will keep this exactly as how it's stated right here, okay? So don't completely quote me on this. But if they were to implement it as it's stated right here in the changelog that was on preprod, mortal horses will also lose Morpheus's arms when they reach 30 years old, okay? So it's possible they might not do this. There was some feedback on it that there's a reason that a lot of players like to have a Morpheus's arms on mortal horses. So, if horse takes the feedback into account on that, there's a possibility they might not do this, or there's a possibility that they will. We'll just have to wait and see. So that's pretty much all of what this whole Blup update is about. Like I said, it might change, it might not. Now, a few questions and concerns that have been popping up about this. Will it be harder to Blup? In terms of the requirements, no, the requirements are still exactly the same. To get 100 Blup, you'll still have to build the horse's top 3 skills, age your horse 10 years old, and win 20 competitions. What about the perk, the VIP perk to reach 100 Blup before 10 years old thanks to the Nix pack? On the test server, this perk was still available, and I also selected it to test it, and it still worked. So this perk, this perk should still be a thing. As I tested it, it worked. Now, the major concern I think that is going on is that will competitions become harder to win? And the reason why players are asking this is that, like, right now under the current system, if you just have to reach 70 Blup, you don't have to get wins. So if players now want to reach 100 Blup all the time with their horses, there's a worry that, like, the top skilled horses will just completely dominate the competitions, and that the lower skilled horses or the players that just comp by themselves, they don't have anybody to fill for them, won't be able to win competitions anymore. I think this is slightly premature because we just don't know how this will play out when it goes live, and this is definitely a factor that we will have to see play out live. Testing this, there's just not enough players to test that exact thought. Competitions run very slow on the test server just because there's so few players on there to test it, and I think this is something that we're just going to have to see play out on the live version. Also, we don't know how players will change their breeding strategies. Maybe lots of players won't bother trying to get those wins. Maybe they'll still just Blup to 70, or, well, I guess they will have to get some wins in order to Blup to 70, but, maybe they won't bother trying to get the wins. They might not change their strategy. Maybe they will. Also, I think something to keep in mind is that a lot of times, even if, if you're just a VIP that auto comps, which is what I do quite a bit, sometimes your horse will just win automatically. I don't intend for them to do that when I auto comp, just because I'm not sure if I'm entering in with somebody else who's blupping or something. But once in a while, I'll have like a lower skilled horse that will just automatically win by itself. And I think that's a possibility of what happens quite a bit with higher skilled horses right now. They just get wins by happenstance, even when you're not paying attention. Even if you enter competitions manually, you just enter whatever comp is there, maybe a really high difficulty race, and your horse just happens to win. I don't think we can say for certainty that yes, competitions will be absolutely harder if you breed by yourself. If you have lower skilled horses, you won't win competitions at all. I think that's very quick, a little bit hasty to say, and I think we really need to see how this play out when it goes live. I can't say that enough. We just have to wait and see. just, which this kind of goes into my own thoughts about this Blup change. I think it's a good idea. I really never, I guess I'm old school in that I always thought 100 Blup was something to strive for all the time. I rarely breed at less than 100 Blup, except for I think like this all my, like this horse here that's part of my all breed GP project or all breed project that I finished last year. I just blepped these horses to 70 just because they were low GP and it wasn't about getting wins. It was just about getting all the breeds in one horse. So I didn't care about GP gain at all. But like for all my crossbreeding projects, I blip all those horses to 100. I do have a pure breed drum horse project that I work on. That one is just slow and at my own pace. I do breed at 70 blup for that, but that doesn't really bother me. But otherwise, for my crossbreeds, I always breed at 100 blup for those. I do think it's a good idea to definitely make sure there is a significant gain difference between breeding at 70 versus breeding at 100. I don't really think that 70 blup should give similar genetic gain results as breeding at 100, just because you do have to put in a little bit more work to get to 100, unless just wins just come easy for your horse or whatever. And also in regards to the lone players, lone breeders will have harder time finding wins. I've actually always been just kind of a lone wolf on the game when it comes to breeding and winning competitions. I can probably count on, just use both my hands to count how many times I've had somebody fill for me, because I've always just filled for myself, or I'm just really strategic about which competitions I enter. I'm very careful about how I train my horses. And I'm not super concerned about the competition thing, to be honest. I was a little bit at first, just because I kind of thought, well, maybe now a lot of these top horses, they'll want those wins, so they'll definitely be entering to win. They won't just be entering to fill. But like I said, again, going to reiterate this again, we just have to see how it plays out when it goes live. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this update a bit before it does go live, because I think there might be a bit of a blow up right away when this gets put up in the changelog and the forums. And I hope that putting this up now, players, will be able to just kind of sit back, take a breather, think about this critically, and just, think about the pros and cons before it goes up. That way, then when it does go up, you play around with it for yourself. You'll be able to say, oh, okay, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Or if it is as bad as you thought it would be, then okay, then you have confirmation of that. But I guess, don't want to cause a panic about this or think it's going to be terrible when we haven't really had a chance to see it play out live. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this for now. Hopefully everything goes really smooth. Maybe it'll actually change the way competitions will run in the future. Maybe we'll get some update to the competitions, because I would like to see some changes to competitions, whether we somehow are able to create more competitions or change the criteria for entry or something or whatever. I don't know. That's a conversation for another time, but that's kind of where we're at with this Blup update thing. So hopefully all goes smooth. I guess I'll see you guys once this goes live. So thank you for joining me today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.